Early in January, the Queen called in the head of the palace guard and revealed her plan. She asked him to prepare for the possibility of violence.
On the morning of January 14th of 1893, the Queen met with her cabinet and informed them that she had all intentions of promulgating a new constitution which would restore herself as monarch with powers of a monarch and reestablish the voting rights of her people.
Two of her ministers, both of American descent, betrayed her. They went to the annexationists with news of her secret plans.
Her idea of a new constitution was to go back to her appointing the upper house, her naming her own cabinet without the legislature approving it, things that simply couldn't be accepted by the business community. And they decided that she had to go.
That afternoon, the Hawaiian community converged on the palace. The new constitution was no longer a secret.
Streams of people, said to be in the thousands, are coming into Iolani Palace grounds for the announcement of the promulgation, that is, the establishment of a new constitution.
Foreign diplomats assembled in the throne room waiting for ceremonies to begin. The Queen was meeting privately with her cabinet. She believed she had their total support.
She asked them to do their duty and sign it. And to her amazement, her cabinet refused to do that.
She wrote, "I told them that I would not have undertaken such a step if they had not encouraged me. They had led me out to the edge of a precipice and were leaving me to take the leap alone." The moment had arrived when the Queen had to face the thousands of Hawaiians who were patiently waiting.
She went onto the balcony to address this crowd of thousands of people. After all, they had been waiting for this moment. And as she goes on, she talks in Hawaiian. And she says to them, "In a future time, I will promulgate a new constitution. Go home peacefully." Well, in Hawaiian, the word future time can also mean some other day. Could be the next day, could be tomorrow. And the foreign community is aghast, particularly some who have been backing annexation. And they're saying, "See, this is what we have been telling you. This is an act of revolution. This is a treason."
The evening newspapers played up the threat.
And it's fascinating the way they cast her as a revolutionary. I mean, we usually think of them as the revolutionaries, but they were, I think, brilliant in casting her in this new role as the revolutionary against the Constitution.
Her opposition regrouped, this time calling themselves the Committee of Safety, a name that they had taken from the French Revolution. That night, at a private home, the Committee of Safety and other prominent members of the business community plotted to overthrow the Hawaiian monarchy. They drafted papers to establish a new government and chose Judge Sanford Dole, a missionary's son, to be their president. They knew they had the support of the United States representative in Hawaii.
John L. Stevens, the American minister, was known for his expansionist views. And there is no question that he was in league with, shared the deepest of nationalistic sentiments with the sugar producers and with Loren Thurston and all of his friends and relatives.
2 days later, Stevens sent word to an American warship in the harbor to land a company of Marines, ostensibly to protect American lives and property.
He is not cleared to do this by the appropriate channels in Washington. Stevens did this clearly out of his own prejudice, his own deep personal belief that now was the time for the United States government to take Hawaii.
4 boatloads of Marines came ashore. They carried Gatling guns and 14,000 rounds of ammunition and were followed by 2 revolving cannon and a hospital unit. As the Queen watched from the palace balcony, 162 bluejackets marched through the streets of Honolulu. When they reached the palace, they lowered their flags and saluted her with a drum roll.
The idea that a revolution was taking place probably did not occur to most of the people of Honolulu throughout most of these events. When the U.S. Marines landed, the Royal Hawaiian Band was playing a concert at a Hawaiian hotel. It didn't stop the concert. Most people probably saw this as another political disturbance in Honolulu, which would resolve itself as the way it always resolved itself, in a few days.
But by the evening, the United States Marines took up positions facing Iolani Palace and the Queen. The following day, the Committee of Safety proclaimed a new Hawaiian government. Within hours, on behalf of the United States, Stevens recognized the regime. The Queen was ordered to resign.
With the guns pointed at her, she met with her cabinet and had to make a decision. And after great deliberation, she surrendered to the United States of America, not to the provisional government that was established there, but to the United States of America.
Her surrender read, "I, Liliuokalani, by the grace of God, yield my authority until such time as the government of the United States shall reinstate me as the constitutional sovereign of the Hawaiian Islands."
Liliu had a great faith in America. It was the Americans that brought Christianity, which she took in and embraced. And because of that faith, she felt that truth and justice would prevail.
The Queen ordered the palace guard be disarmed. The same day, the police department of Honolulu swore allegiance to the new provisional government.
The amazing thing is that as soon as Liliuokalani was put out of power, she exerted all of her influence to keep the Hawaiian people from rising up to put her back on the throne. She was so terribly afraid of shedding Hawaiian blood in her cause. She leaves this comment in her writings that it's a matter of great pride to her that not a single drop of blood, either of friend or of foe, is upon my soul. But had she allowed blood to be shed, she probably would have survived as queen.
Thurston and his colleagues sailed for Washington. They now had the power to formally request the annexation of Hawaii. It would take 10 days for news of the Queen's overthrow to reach the outside world. On January 18, 1893, the day after she surrendered, Liliuokalani went for a ride in her carriage. On her way back, she told her driver not to turn into the palace, but instead to take her to her private residence, Washington Place. She firmly believed her exile would be brief, that the United States would recognize the error and she would be reinstated. On February 1st, Minister Stevens ceremonially raised the American flag over the government building. Liliuokalani wrote in her diary, "Time may wear off the feeling of injury, but my dear flag, the Hawaiian flag, that a strange flag should wave over it. May heaven look down on these missionaries and punish them for their deeds." The palace was renamed the Executive Building. Martial law was declared and would be enforced by the ragtag army of the provisional government.
There was a blackening out of things, of news. But our people were able to find a means of protest. because they were told by their leader, their queen, not to take up arms. They began wearing hatbands that said Aloha Aina, that meant patriotism. They began to make quilts that had the Hawaiian flag because the Hawaiian flag had been banned.
In Washington, D.C., where Lauren Thurston had been lobbying for the annexation treaty, everything was changing. A new president was coming into office. In Hawaii, neither the annexationists nor the Queen's followers knew what to expect. One of Grover Cleveland's first moves was to send a special envoy to investigate the situation in the islands. Everyone turned out to greet James H. Blunt. Both sides assumed that he would champion their cause.
There is a lot of hope amongst royalists because it is a different administration. This is now, he's being sent now perhaps to correct, to listen to what is going on. And of course, one of the first things that he does is to lower the American flag.
Blunt wants it clear that the United States government does not view Hawaii as its possession, and that the people of the United States who might be living in Hawaii, while he is doing this investigation at least, are not running that island.
When the Hawaiian flag was raised once again, the Queen sent word to her people to remain quiet and not to cheer, to avoid aggravating the Americans. Blunt, a former Georgia congressman and retired Confederate Army colonel, his wife, and his secretary, quickly became part of the social life of Honolulu. They were welcomed everywhere. Hawaiians and Americans were only too eager to bend Blunt's ear with their version of the events that had transpired. Citizens of American descent heard his deep Southern accent and felt free to air their prejudices against the non-white Hawaiians. For 4 months, Blunt took testimony from all sides, documentation that remains to this day the primary historical record of the period. His conclusions were unexpected.
Mr. Blunt writes a 2,000-page report that is one of the greatest condemnations of the United States foreign policy by a United States government representative in the annals of American history. Not only did he condemn United States aggressiveness and the conspiracy and the secrecy of it all as illegal and wrong-headed and immoral, but he urged a very pragmatic and moral solution to the problem. Put the Queen back in power.
The provisional government was asked by President Cleveland to resign in favor of the Queen, but they refused, sandbagging the palace in preparation for a showdown. The president was shocked but unwilling to use force against Americans. In a deft political move, he referred the matter to Congress. The Queen wrote, "When the U.S. is ready, she will undo all that her minister has done." Many of Liliuokalani's supporters did not share her optimism. In the latter part of 1894, Sam Nolan, the former captain of her Royal Guard, began a covert operation to restore the Queen to power. But his actions would only make matters worse. At night, on a beach near Waikiki, Nolan and his men unloaded guns they had shipped in from San Francisco. When the police got wind of the plot, they sent out a search party. A shot was fired, killing the son of a leading annexationist.
Fighting breaks out, and the citizen guards are formed. Cannons are brought out and guns barricaded all around the palace. And finally, after several days of searching and searching, they found and brought in all the rebels. And then, most dramatically, the sheriff went to the home of Queen Liliuokalani and arrested the Queen.
Accused of knowing about the plot, Liliuokalani was brought to the palace where she would be held to await trial.